On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
Okay, a few things. One, Grace, sorry to cut you off. I cannot believe that you fly in A-ball. That's actually insane to me. Obviously, I'm very just mind blown by that one. So yes, that would be a ridiculous stressor to have a bunch of young A-ball kids trying to be organized and be on a flight because you fly commercial in the minor leagues, not on private planes like in the big leagues. Absolutely insane. Two, Logan, the fact that a full squad first day is on a Sunday is so on brand for baseball. It's insane. And then three, I mean, we discussed it earlier, right? About the running volume and being on your feet for the players, but the same holds true for the staff. It's probably worse for the staff, right? Like you go to spring training, you are on your feet all day, every day from like 5 in the morning until like some days 5 at night, 6 at night. You grab dinner, you go to bed, you do it again. And I appreciate that you're talking about like they have more strategic off days. Like we would have like one off day every year in spring training when I was with Boston. We would play basically the max amount of games that we could. We had a lot of split squad games. We had a lot of travel. And then that one off day was like, all right, let's do Top Golf or let's do like staff dinner or something. And I'm like, guys, like I need this day off, please. But you just like, there's nothing you can do in the off season to really be prepared for how much you're just interacting with people in spring training. And by the time I left, like we would tell our younger coaches, like, listen, when you come in, you're going to be really excited. You're going to have all these great ideas from the off season. Everybody's going to be jazzed. Everyone's super excited. And it's just this really good vibe and really good energy. And we're all connecting and we're sitting in the office after hours, just talking shop. And then by like week 5, you just become like this gremlin of a human. You just hate people. And every day you're like, oh my God, if this guy talks to me about bat speed one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. And you just have to like bury that and be like, okay, take a breath. Like spring training's almost over. We'll get to the affiliate or we'll get to wherever we're going. Like, but it's really this like unrelenting thing that just every single day you're going to interact with a ton of people. You're going to have meetings. You're going to be on your feet. I always had Florida spring training. So like you're in that heat and that humidity, you're sweating, and like just every single day it is just nonstop. And being able to put yourself in the right mindset, I think we've talked about that before, Logan, is just really valuable in spring training to help you get through, especially that second half of camp before you break. And then especially in the minor leagues, like some coaches are there a lot longer, right? Because you have like those kind of staggered leaving dates where like by the end of that, you're just like, oh my God, get me out of Florida, please. But again, it's kind of just all part of it, right? And to get to the season, you got to get through the spring training. And the other thing that like the flip side of that is you're home every night. You kind of have a similar schedule every day. You know when your meals are. The travel in spring training is really not that bad. Like you get to work with a lot of players and a lot of coaches, and it's kind of the only time that your whole strength staff is together. So you really got to take like the good with the bad and kind of have a perspective on everything. So one of my questions that I had written down, like half jokingly, is like, other than doing a podcast with me, like what are you guys doing in your free time during spring training, or you just not have free time anymore?
Oh, brother. I feel like right now mine's not as bad. Like obviously I'm not in a big league camp, so I still have much more time to myself. So today I went on a run. I went to the beach. Like I love going to the beach. It's a really easy decompressor for me. Especially like you said in spring training. Like it's not right now the hours aren't terrible. Like we're getting done probably around 6. So I think that the sun sets like right around that time too. So it's kind of like a nice time to like drive home and just kind of decompress in that sense. Um, yeah, you just kind of have to like find time for yourself. It was like read something or watch TV. But yeah, I think actually decompressing after the day is done is like really important because you're so overstimulated during the day. Whether, like Logan was saying, you have like 30 guys in the gym, you're trying to talk to 40 different players about different workouts that they're doing. Some guys are doing workouts from their off-season people, or they're doing your workouts, and then you have to be outside and go stretch. But then you have like random spurts of downtime. But you're like, well, I feel like I shouldn't be resting. Like this is something I need to be doing. So, like you said, I feel like it's more like it is staying on your feet a lot, but it's so overstimulating neurologically, and like it's really easy for me to get like sped up. So just being present, like where my feet are, and then actually like leaving work at work, and getting to go home, and just relaxing and taking like the actual off days to just relax. And like you said, Chris, if you do have like staff dinners, like just try and minimize the time there and obviously enjoy them, but minimize the time with your staff and spring training outside of work.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else. There's not a lot of free time right now, honestly, just with, trying to keep tabs on what's going on, like across, like down the hall in the building on the other side. There's still off-season responsibilities and check-ins with some of the players that aren't here yet. Specific to this time frame, right? Like maybe this is a different conversation this time next month. But I do think that right now specifically you're trying to be where your feet are, as Grace mentioned, but then there's also like being pulled in just a variety of areas. And I think that for me specifically, like trying to I'm a big planner. My wife can attest to that, but I do think that it is, I don't know, paid dividends for me to have like more of a stricter routine, right? Like I wake up at this time and I wake up at the same time every day, and I get in here and I do 30 minutes of admin work when it's quiet in the morning. I budget out 30-40 minute window to hit a lift of some sort. Maybe in some days it's more of a micro. Some days it might be cardio and arm farm. Some days it might be more of just like an A block, but more strength hypertrophy focus, right? Like I kind of do a little bit of everything in camp to keep it fresh. And training isn't always the most consistent, admittedly, as well in camp. Neither is recovery. But anyway, I think having a specific routine that is somewhat repeatable, and having it be in a controllable sense that's healthy in nature and concise outside of the working hours, I've found over the past decade or so to be beneficial, especially during spring training. And it looks way different in season. The window of time shifts backwards significantly, obviously with the game schedule and such. But when you're talking waking up much earlier than anyone should have to wake up, and then staying here much later than anybody that is working should have to stay at work, that's okay. We willfully sign up for this, right? And we do it year over year and time again, because we're passionate about it. But what comes along with that is like the day-to-day grind. So I think that being intentional on the front end or the back end. Grace mentioned earlier something about training after the day. I can't do that. I have to do it before, or to be honest, it's not getting done. And I'm kind of the same with admin work. I'm kind of like, hey, I got something to do. Well, guess what? I'm gonna do it first thing tomorrow morning when it's quiet. I'm gonna get in here before everybody else, and I'm gonna knock something out. I personally, I'm a morning person. I'm not an evening person, so I'm more efficient in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I am. There were back in the day, I would do strongman Saturday. I would get up at 3 a.m., be in the gym by 4. Nobody was there until 5:30. So like I'd have the gym to myself from 4 to 5, and just, it was amazing. And then I'd go on with the day. And that's kind of just how I've always operated. It's just, if I'm going to get it done, it's got to be early in the day. But it's funny because you say like we willfully sign up for it, right? Like we all know what spring training is and the beast that it becomes. And we just keep going back to it and just kind of accepting it. And I think the nice thing is it's kind of gotten a little bit out of hand, if I'm being completely honest, in baseball. It's like you come off of this longer off-season window where like, all right, listen, you have your time, you do what you want. Like when spring training hits, like you got to be ready, boots on the ground, you got to be ready to run. And I think the off-season responsibilities have become a little bit more over the years, which to be honest, can be frustrating at times, just knowing what the demand is once you get to spring training and during the season and everything. But that's probably for a different day. But what have you guys taken from this offseason that you're excited to implement? Grace, I see you posting a ton of really good content Logan, I know you're diving into things like, what have you guys looked at during this off season, or how did you maximize your learning, your education, your development, while also trying to find that balance of just having some peace and quiet, and maybe being able to travel and spend time with like loved ones, family, and all of that? Like, what have you taken away that you're excited to bring with you to this season?
I'm really glad like this off season I went to X2 because I wanted to keep getting reps in. I feel like last off season I just wanted to be at home with my family, which was totally fine, and like travel more. But this year I really wanted to keep working and coaching, just because I didn't want to feel like I didn't have a purpose. Like for me, like I'm very routine oriented, kind of like Logan said. Like I need to be coaching or doing something and working with athletes to feel like to get better. And if I hadn't worked at X, like I would not have been as motivated, I guess, to like research more and do like the stuff I've been putting out on my Instagram. I feel like I've really honed in. Like I've always been intrigued in corrective exercises and prep work, but I've really, really tried to dive into it this year. Just because at X2 there's a lot of pro guys in the morning who came in and worked there from many different orgs, and obviously different orgs come with different prep work, different routines, and it was great for me to experience that and learn all that. And I had a guy who had a SPI like spasm, and I've never worked the serratus posterior inferior muscle like really ever. And obviously you work with it every day without really noticing it, but to actually target that muscle and work with it, I realized a lot more of, the prep work needs to come from how the athlete's moving when they're throwing or hitting, right? Like we talked about it earlier, like the testing is obviously really important to have those baseline numbers, and it's huge to have that resource as a strength coach. But the stuff that you're implementing into the program needs to be coming from how they're moving on the mound or how they're defensively moving, mechanically in that sense. So if I didn't have that experience, like I would not have, I feel like, really dived in and been deeper with the space that I wrote in this off season. We also brought in, as a Rays staff, we brought in Ken Clark. He came and talked to us about speed, and he's great, very, very intelligent. We want to try and start implementing more of, his stuff into our like more progressions and just speed training in general. So that was great to work on him. Speed is always something that I want to improve on and work on, with my guys. But yeah, the corrective exercise was really, really big for me as far as growth as well. And just being in that environment with different guys was huge.
For me, I guess it seems like a good time to kind of plug the winter meetings, whether you work in or out of baseball. And the reason why I kind of go there is, I guess if you're not working in this space and you would like to work in this space, I can't think of a better networking opportunity where you're going to have representatives from every single Major League Baseball organization, front office, big leagues, down to Dominican staffs and international scouting operations, et cetera. You're going to have all these people in one spot. And I know that many organizations take that opportunity to interview people and to build connections with potential pipeline of prospects that they may be looking to hire or bring on in a year or two, if not right now. But I'd say that that's probably the best opportunity if looking to work in baseball. And if you're currently working in baseball, I feel like it's also a great opportunity, especially if the organization covers the expense involved with that, just because it kind of divides the off season in half, if you will. You get a little bit of a period of time on the front end of it. It's in the dead period for the non 40-man guys and the off season. So it's a nice like check-in point, right, with your staff, and you get to spend some time away from the working environment, which you don't always get. Or if you do get it, like we mentioned, it's right in the middle of the busiest time of year, and that just doesn't go over well with a lot of folks. So I think that it's just a really nice development opportunity that the PBSCCS does an excellent job of putting together a lineup of people both within and outside of our game. The lineup this past year was phenomenal. It was in Orlando, and I don't know, I just took a lot from it, and I feel like that year over year it's always something new, right? Like there are a lot of vendors there, so if you're interested in the newest technology or the newest training methodologies or the newest supplements, the newest apparel, like there you can kind of get all of these things as a one-stop shop. So that would kind of be like my largest recommendation, on top of some of the like communication, relationship building things that I feel like just more or less amplify our like impact essentially, right? Like it just magnifies what we're able to do on the day to day. But to Grace's point, I do feel like if provided an opportunity to kind of like sharpen your sword in the off season, it's critical, because I've come back at times throughout my career to this point and just felt kind of rusty for the first couple of weeks. If not taking that opportunity to do that, or haven't worked in off-season camp as of late or something like that. This past season, we did have 2 off-season camps out here in Arizona, and I was here for both of them. So kind of an organic built-in way to do that. Yes, it's a time commitment, but I think it's also a money opportunity to like continue to invest into some of our younger player groups, and kind of have those higher priority guys set the standard and the tone for the rest of the organization too. So that's kind of what I got on the Con Ed front.
You guys have like staff calls during the off season as well, just specific to like your strength and conditioning or your performance staff, just either just to check in on each other, make sure you're all right, or if there's anything that maybe somebody's reading that you just kind of want to bounce around. Do you guys have calls like that?
Yeah, we actually had calls like weekly or bi-weekly with our hitting staff and strength staff as well to do more collaborative stuff this year, which was really cool. I thought very progressive of our staff, but yeah, we do pretty good with the strength staff as well.
Likewise, we try to do it bi-weekly. Sometimes it turns into less frequently depending on the time of the year with the holidays and such. But my organization on a grander scale also did a series of continuing education opportunities where you could kind of learn from other disciplines. And, the S&C staff, the medical player development can learn from scouting, and scouting can learn from player development. And baseball ops puts together this kind of thing of where we're headed, and it encapsulates all these different experts in all these different areas, and why is that important to the people that work in the Dominican Republic. And it's kind of just nice for us, streamlining kind of like a line of communication of getting, like, to my prior point of kind of getting everyone on the same page of like, hey, what is it that is important to all of us, whether it's S&C related or not, as an organization, and then how can we best support one another and speak the same language, and ensure that we're like, basically, like I mentioned, magnifying our impact, and solidifying those conversations as we close the feedback loop with the players daily here in camp. But in the off season, even if it's a biweekly check-in, how can I say something that the hitting coach I know has already circled in with them on as it relates to their hip hinge or their torso decel or their direction or their rotational efficiency, whatever it is, right? Like, how can we speak some of those common languages across disciplines to show the player that we really are truly invested into their growth and development?
Yeah, I think that was kind of a big area of improvement over the years when I was in. It was like, Grace, you mentioned bringing in Ken Clark. Like, it was always cool in the off season to go like learn your own stuff and kind of dive into things. But then you'd go to camp and like 6 people had 6 different ideas, and nobody knew what was happening internally, right? And it kind of shifted to like, hey, this is kind of our speed training philosophy. Does the base running coordinator know that? Like, do they know what kind of language we speak? And conversely, like, do we know what they're looking for on the base paths? And same with the hitting, same with the pitching, where it became less of like, go do your own stuff. Like, obviously that you still want to go learn and kind of read your own stuff, but also like, hey, collectively, like, can we speak the same language? And if not, like, we need to have these calls to have these conversations with each other. And then it kind of helps you to operate a little bit more, like a little bit smoother in your own org versus like, hey, the Rays do this, the White Sox do this, the Astros do that, the Tigers do this. It's like, well, do we know what the Red Sox do? Like, internally, do we know? And once you kind of look at it through that lens, it's like, we could probably be better within our own group, right? Logan, you talked earlier that you brought a lot of external people in that are very smart. Well, I want to know what makes them smart. Like, what do they bring to the table that makes them smart? And conversely, like, I consider myself a smart person in strength and conditioning. Like, I have stuff to offer to them, so that if a pitcher has a conversation, whether it's with the pitching coach, the athletic trainer, or myself, we're all saying the same thing and connecting with that player. And I think that really took our department specifically up to like another level within the org, where it wasn't like, oh, they're just the weight room guys. They're just the meatheads. They're just, they're clanging and banging with the iron in there. It's like, no, they can actually be really helpful in what we're trying to do with our players. And honestly, they know the body, like strength and conditioning coaches know the body better than hitting coaches do. That's just probably a fact in 95% of cases. we may not know hitting specifically, but we know how the body functions and how things operate. So we can help connect those dots for people. And I think that kind of took things to the next level. So it's cool that you guys are doing that. To the point you made earlier, Grace, about like being able to coach in the off season and being routine oriented, I always felt lost in the off season. And then I had a bunch of guys that lived in Arizona. I was living in Arizona in the minor leagues, and we would just go to the gym and train. And like 2-3 hours a day, I had this kind of semi routine for myself. It kind of set me up for the rest of the day versus just floating around doing whatever I wanted and waking up whenever I wanted and having no structure, and then showing up to camp, like both of you mentioned, just feeling kind of rusty and out of it. So I think we're all kind of high performers, and we're all kind of like these very ambitious people and probably a little bit crazy. That's why we're in the game, right? But if we don't have any structure to guide us, like my off seasons, sometimes I was going to Fenway from like 9 to 4 every day, Monday through Friday, even in the off season. And that's considered like a light schedule versus like spring training. But it allowed me to have some structure in my life versus just, it's Wednesday, I don't know what to do with myself. So I think that's really key. And then Logan, to your point with winter meetings, like I really miss going to winter meetings, and every year I get asked to go, and it's just during baseball off season, which is my busiest time. So obviously I can't go, but the networking there is second to none. Like the education is really good. Being around your staff is really good. And like you said, it kind of splits the off season of like, all right, once we get back from winter meetings, like we kind of got to lock it in here. So that was always like the turn the page, get ready for the season. So both really, really good notes on that one. Before we wrap it up, because I am taking a lot of your time, which I'm very appreciative of in camp while you guys are there. Thank you. It's not lost on me. Is there anything that we missed on spring training, on life, on anything that you want, any advice, good, bad, and different, before we wrap this up and I let you go?
Yeah, I have one additional thing that I thought about, but then we kind of moved on, and now seems like a decent time to circle back to it. I think like I think in nature, like by nature, we're problem solvers, right? Like that's kind of what we do. We watch somebody move and we kind of say, all right, like what's wrong with their movement, or what are they inefficient at, and how can we make them more efficient in that skill or in that move? And I think by the same token, like I can identify issues with like scheduling and stuff in spring training, and like what's going on this dysfunctional in this building, and how can we make it better? And I think like some commentary around like, okay, how can we make spring training better would probably be a good thing, because I know that those conversations are going on internally, and I would imagine they are across the other 29 organizations as well. And to me, there's like a couple of ways that we can do this. It's to your earlier point on from a workload standpoint, making the scheduling a bit more representative of the in-season demands, whether that's in the minor leagues, having a standardized day off weekly, or if it's not attainable bi-weekly in camp, maybe something that's like relatively standardized. I know that we try to do that with some of our camp days on the minor league side of like, hey, we're not playing external competition. We're going to just, maybe there's a couple of guys that need to get off the mound or whatever, but we're going to try to make these shorter days on, maybe it's a Monday and a Thursday weekly from start to finish in camp. So I think it's making camp more representative of the in-season demands. Maybe it's shifting the window of time a bit later in the day as we near breaking camp. We don't play, we don't show up at 7 a.m. In season ever. Literally ever. The players don't show up that early, at least. So, in terms of like making spring training look like the season, I'm not sure that makes a whole ton of sense, but I think maybe shifting to a night schedule where appropriate, if the scheduling can be played out from organization to organization, could benefit the player group on just like standardizing and normalizing a schedule, with the additional layer of travel that's going to take place at the end of it. So, yeah, I think just like logistically, there's things in baseball in general that we can do to continue to improve our systems. And I think that like some things are completely outside of our control and won't ever change. And we just need to embrace those things and have an optimistic outlook on it. But some of the things that we maybe can control, and that we can better protect some of our assets, if you will, our player group, in terms of just like from a health standpoint, but then also just optimizing performance as we get ready to break camp and guys are trying to make a certain team and there's stress associated with that. If we can make this look a little bit more like what it looks like at an affiliate or in the big leagues for some of the older group, I think that may bring some comfort that doesn't currently exist, at least in my experience here in Arizona. Like there's not a lot of teams that have infiltrated some of those like newer, I don't know, ideas that don't look like the way that we've done things for some time now.
Grace, anything?
Yeah, something else that just I feel like spring training is trying to get to know people who you're not going to work with on a daily basis at the affiliate. I think it's really, really important to reach out to the people and connect to people that you don't work with, just because you never know when you're going to work with them or when they're going to come see you. Obviously, coordinators will see you a lot, but the guys in the DR who are up here for, a few weeks out of the spring training, it's huge to talk to them. So that's obviously where everything starts from, and they're working with the guys when they're 16 years old. So I think I make it a priority for me to meet with a bunch of people. And obviously, like, I'm really close to my big league staff too. So I just pick people's brains and talk to so many people as I can. I obviously love to yap, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, the beauty of spring training is there's just so many people, and that's also the detriment of spring training is there's so many people. But Logan, to your point, yeah, my favorite would be we would have like 1 or 2 night games in camp, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're getting ready for the season by playing a night game." It's like, no, that's not, it's not the same. So,
but then you play a day game the next day.
Day game the next day, exactly.
And
right.
you do like 4 or 5 of those in a row, maybe more, before you have another night game. And that doesn't name me one time you did that in Boston. Probably never.
Never. No, correct. Listen, guys, I appreciate your time. I know that free time is very valuable, so I'm very appreciative. I really do. Thank you for spending over an hour with me talking shop. Separately, I appreciate the friendship. Logan, definitely over the years, and Grace more recently. Just keep doing what you're doing. If there's any way I can help you out, let me know, and just enjoy as much of it as you can in spring training, and good luck once you guys go to the affiliates, and we'll definitely be talking soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris, for having us on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks again, Chris.
All right, everybody, that's going to conclude our final part of this interview with Grace and Logan. I hope you enjoyed this whole interview, and if you missed parts 1 and 2, please feel free to go back and check those out, as I think this was a really, really good dive into spring training for strength and conditioning coaches in professional baseball. 3 things that I took from my guests in this part of the interview: finding ways to get coaching reps in the off-season can help you stay sharp for when the season begins. Attending winter meetings can be highly valuable, whether you work in professional baseball or not. And finding ways to speak a common language amongst departments helps create clarity and a unified sense of direction. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.